There is a particular kind of silence that settles over a great house in the hours after a death. It is not the silence of an empty room. It is the silence of a room that knows something and has decided not to tell. On the morning of the 14th of November 1889, such a silence had settled over Winterbridge House in the county of Berkshire. The master of the estate, Sir Edmund Hollis, had been found in his library at first light. The door had been locked from the inside. The single window was sealed with iron shutters that had not been opened in 12 years. There was no second door, no servant's passage, no chimney wide enough for a child, let alone a man. And yet Sir Edmund was dead. His body lay beside the hearth. His face was untouched. His hands were folded across his chest, as though arranged by an undertaker, and in the grate, where the night fire had burned down to embers, a great heap of fresh ashes still glowed. Someone had burned a document in that hearth in the hours before Sir Edmund's death, a document so important that it had to be destroyed before he was found. The local constabulary called it a natural death. The family physician signed the certificate without protest. The household began to mourn. But 3 days later, a telegram arrived at 221B Baker Street, and Sherlock Holmes did what Sherlock Holmes always did. He looked at a death that everyone else had already accepted, and he saw the one detail that did not fit. This is the case of the ashes of Winterbridge House. It is a story of a locked room, a burnt will, a daughter who could not weep, and a brother who arrived too late. And before the night is over, every clue you are about to be given will mean the opposite of what you first believed. It is the habit of London in November to forget that the sun ever existed. By the third week of the month, the city wakes in darkness, conducts its business in a yellow gloom, and is sent to bed again by lamplight before 5 in the afternoon. On the afternoon, the telegram arrived. Dr. Watson had been at the window for the better part of an hour, watching the world dissolve. "You will catch a chill standing there, Watson," said Holmes, without raising his eyes from the glass tube in his hand. "And before you ask, the answer is no. I have nothing of interest. I have been reduced this morning to analysing a piece of soap." "A piece of soap?" said Watson. "Belonging to the Earl of Pemberton. He believes his valet has been poisoning him." "And has he?" "The valet? No. The soap? Yes. The Earl has been washing himself with arsenic for 6 months. The valet has been buying him whatever the chemist recommends. It is a tragedy of incompetence, not of malice." It was at this moment that Mrs. Hudson knocked, and the telegram was brought up. "Watson," said Holmes, very quietly, "pack a bag. We leave in 40 minutes. He passed the telegram across. "Come at once. My father is dead. The doctor calls it natural. It is not. There was no fire last night. Clara Hollis." "Winterbridge House, Berkshire. There was no fire last night," Watson read aloud. "Holmes, what on earth does that mean?" "It means, Watson, that the daughter of the late Sir Edmund Hollis is either a woman of extraordinary perception, or she is the most dangerous liar in 3 counties. And which do you think it is? I have no opinion yet. That is why we are going." The train from Paddington to Reading runs west out of London through the suburbs of Ealing and Slough, and then into open country, where the Thames runs slow and silver under leafless trees. For the first 20 minutes neither man spoke. Holmes had taken from his pocket a small black notebook and was making, in his precise hand, a list of every fact contained in the single sentence of the telegram. Watson, who had learned long ago not to interrupt this process, watched the rain and waited. At length Holmes closed the notebook. "What do you know of Sir Edmund Hollis, Watson?" "Very little. A landowner, I believe. Old family. There was some scandal a year or 2 ago, was there not?" Something about the disinheritance of his eldest son? Just so. Sir Edmund had 2 children by his first marriage, a son, Theodore, and a daughter, Clara. The first Lady Hollis died in childbirth with the daughter, and Sir Edmund remarried some 12 years later, a widow named Helena Marbury. There were no further children, but the second marriage was, by all accounts, a content one. Theodore Hollis, the eldest son, was sent down from Cambridge in 1884 for a matter involving cards and a brother officer's wife. Sir Edmund summoned him home, and there was a quarrel. The result was that Theodore was disinherited, the estate entailed instead upon his sister, and Theodore himself left for South Africa, where he has remained, more or less, ever since. Until now. Until now. According to the railway timetable in my pocket, Theodore Hollis returned to England on the 8th of November. He reached Southampton on the 9th. He has been in London for the last 5 days, and Sir Edmund Hollis died in his locked library on the night of the 13th. Good God! Yes, the neatness of the timing is, as you say, suggestive, but it is also, Watson, almost certainly designed to be suggestive, which is why I am inclined, at present, to mistrust it entirely. Come, Watson, Miss Hollis is meeting us herself. I am curious to see what kind of woman sends a telegram of 17 words and chooses, as her one piece of evidence, the absence of a fire. Clara Hollis was perhaps 24. She wore a travelling cloak of heavy black wool over a dress of the same colour, and a veil pushed back from her face. Her hair was dark, drawn severely back, and her eyes were the grey of cold water. She did not weep when she greeted them. She did not extend her hand. She inclined her head, said, "Mr. Holmes, Dr. Watson, thank you for coming," and turned at once to the carriage. For some minutes she did not speak. Holmes did not press her. Watson, who had attended a great many bereavements in his medical practice, recognized in her stillness a quality he could not name. It was not numbness. It was not shock. It was, he thought, afterwards, the stillness of a person who had been preparing to grieve for so long that the grief, when it came, found nothing left to break. "You must forgive me, gentlemen," she said at length. "I have not slept in 3 days. I will try to be of use." "Begin at the beginning, Miss Hollis," said Holmes gently. "You sent a telegram. You said there was no fire last night. Explain that to me." "My father did not light fires in his library at night, Mr. Holmes. He had not done so for 12 years, not since my mother died." "Indeed. My father suffered after her death from a horror of fire. He could not bear the sound of it. He could not bear the smell of wood smoke. He had the great chimney in the library bricked up at the back, so that no draught would carry the smell to him. He read by lamplight. He kept the iron shutters across the windows so that the cold would not require a fire. In 12 years, Mr. Holmes, no fire has been lit in that hearth." "And yet," said Holmes, "when he was found yesterday morning, a fire had been lit, and a great quantity of paper had been burned. Yes, Miss Hollis, who else in the household knew of your father's horror of fire?" "Everyone. My stepmother, the servants, my brother." "Your brother Theodore, he is at the house?" "He arrived the day before yesterday, the day before my father died. Miss Hollis, there is one further thing I must ask, and you will forgive me if it is brutal. Did anyone in the house have reason to wish your father dead?" "My father was a difficult man, Mr. Holmes. He had quarrelled, at one time or another, with every person under his roof. I imagine each of us, in our worst hours, has thought of his death, but there is only one of us who, in the last 3 weeks, has gained anything by it. And that is my stepmother. He had told her, on the morning of the day he died, that he intended to change his will. Winterbridge House had been built in 1610, by a Sir Hugo Hollis who had made his money from wool. It had been added to in every generation since, and the result was a building that was neither one age nor another, but a great accumulation of rooms, corridors, and staircases that fitted together in a logic that only the long dead could now explain. The butler's name was Penrose, and he had served the Hollis family for 31 years. He took Holmes's coat and Watson's hat without comment, and conducted them across a great hall of black and white marble to a small sitting room where a fire of sea coal burned in the grate. "My mistress will be down directly, sir," said Penrose to Clara. "Mr. Theodore is in the library." "In the library," said Clara. "He has been there, Miss Clara, since after breakfast. He wished to look through your father's papers. Miss Hollis, with your permission, Dr. Watson and I will go to the library at once." "Of course. And Penrose, I would be grateful if you would tell no one for the moment that we are here. Refer to us, if you must, as men of business from London." "As you say, sir." The library at Winterbridge House lay in the oldest part of the building, in what had once been the great hall of the original Jacobean structure. It was a room of perhaps 40 feet by 20, with a ceiling of carved beams and a single great window at the south end, which had been sealed for 12 years behind iron shutters. "He is talking to himself," said Watson. "He is searching," said Holmes, "and he is not finding what he is looking for. A moment, Miss Hollis, before we enter. Tell me, the key to this room. Who holds it?" "My father. Always. It has not left his pocket in 12 years. And when his body was found, the key was in the lock, on the inside of the door, and the doors to the room. There is only this one." "Only this one. Thank you, Miss Hollis. Now, if you would." A man in his late 30s was bent over the desk. He was tall, fair-haired, and burned dark by a foreign sun. His coat was good, but a little worn at the cuffs. He had the look of a man who had not slept on a soft bed in some years, and was uncomfortable now in a chair that was too well stuffed. "Clara! Who are these gentlemen?" "Mr. Holmes, Dr. Watson. This is my brother. Theodore, this is Mr. Sherlock Holmes, of London." "Sherlock Holmes? Good God, Clara, whatever for?" "Because, Theodore, I do not believe our father died a natural death, and neither, I think, do you. Mr. Holmes, I am frankly glad you are here. My sister has formed an idea, and I have not been able to talk her out of it. Perhaps you can resolve the matter, one way or the other." "That is my intention, Mr. Hollis. Tell me, you have been examining your father's papers. May I ask what you are looking for?" "His will. Or rather, the will he made yesterday." "He made a will yesterday?" "He told me he had. The morning of the day he died. He asked me to come to the library that evening. He said he had something to tell me and something to give me. I came down at the appointed hour. The door was locked. I knocked. He did not answer." "At what hour was this?" "A little after 9, and you did not force the door?" "No. I assumed he had fallen asleep. He was an old man. I went to bed. The next morning, the maid found him. This seal, Mr. Hollis, do you recognize it? That is not the family crest. The Hollis crest is a wyvern. Just so. This is the seal of Hargreaves and Bellamy, solicitors of Lincoln's Inn. I happen to know it, because they once acted in a matter that touched upon the King of Bohemia. Was your father a client of theirs?" "Yes. They have handled the family's legal affairs for, 50 years. Then this fragment is what remains of a document drawn up by your father's solicitors, and burned in this hearth at some time after 9 o'clock yesterday evening, by a man who, by his daughter's account, had not lit a fire in this room for 12 years. Then my father did make a new will, and someone has destroyed it. Or, said Holmes with great softness, your father destroyed it himself. The question we must answer, Mr. Hollis, is which? Watson, make a note. The shutters at the south window, locked. The door we entered by, the only door. The key found in the lock on the interior side of the door when the body was found. The body untouched. The hands folded. The fire lit. The will burned. And a single detail, gentlemen, that I will keep to myself for the moment, but which, when the time comes, will turn this entire matter inside out. Lady Helena Hollis was a woman of perhaps 50. She had been, Watson thought, a very beautiful woman, and the beauty had not entirely left her. Her hair was silver, but her eyes were still a startling blue, and she held her shoulders with the carriage of a woman who had been told all her life that she was worth looking at. She rose when they were shown in. She did not weep. Like her stepdaughter, she had the look of a woman who had finished her weeping in private and had no intention of beginning again for an audience. Mr. Holmes, Dr. Watson, I understand my stepdaughter has brought you here without consulting me. I will not pretend that pleases me. But you are here, and I will not stand in your way. Ask me what you wish. You are very direct, Lady Hollis. I am grateful for it. May I ask, when did you last see your husband alive? At dinner. The previous evening. We dined at 7. He retired to the library at 8. I did not see him again. Did he say anything at dinner that struck you as unusual? He told me, Mr. Holmes, that he intended to alter his will. In what way? He did not say. He told me only that the solicitor had been with him that morning, that a new document had been drawn up, that he wished to discuss it with Theodore that evening, and with myself the following day. I never saw the following day. And the substance of the alteration you have no idea? No. Lady Hollis, forgive me, but I must ask, did you and your husband quarrel that evening? We did not quarrel, Mr. Holmes. My husband and I had not quarrelled in 7 years. We had, however, ceased to speak of certain matters, and his announcement, on the morning of his death, that he intended to alter his will was one such matter. You believe, then, that the new will would have disadvantaged you? I believe, Mr. Holmes, that I do not know, and in such circumstances it is, perhaps, easier not to ask. My husband was a man who took pleasure, in his later years, in keeping others uncertain. I have lived with that uncertainty for some time. I had not thought it would end so soon. One final question, Lady Hollis. The hearth in the library was, I understand, never used. Your husband had a horror of fire. He did. Did anyone in this house, to your knowledge, ever light a fire in that hearth in the last 12 years? To my knowledge, Mr. Holmes, no one. Not until the night he died. It was Holmes's custom, in any investigation in a great house, to interview the servants before he interviewed the family. On this occasion, he had reversed the order, for reasons he did not explain to Watson, and which Watson, by long habit, did not ask. He spoke to them not as a detective, but as a guest. He asked them about the house, about the neighbourhood, about the master. He let them talk. He listened, and watched, and noted. From the cook, Mrs. Penrose, he learned that Sir Edmund had eaten very little at his last dinner. A clear soup, a small piece of fish, no wine. He had complained, she said, of indigestion in the days before his death, and had asked her several times to send up a cup of warm milk before bed.
From the senior housemaid, a woman of 40 named Annie Trent, he learned that Sir Edmund had been in unusually good spirits on the morning of his death.
He had been, she said, almost gentle. He had thanked her, for the first time in her memory, for bringing his coffee. From the footman, a young man named Daniel Carey, he learned that Mr. Theodore had returned to the house at 4:30 on the afternoon of the 13th, that he had had a long interview with his father in the library between 5 and 6, that he had emerged from that interview looking, in Carey's words, white as a sheet, sir, but smiling. Smiling, you say? Yes, sir, like a man who has won something. Mr. Carey, did you by any chance listen at the door of the library during that interview? I would not say I listened, sir, but I was passing in the corridor, sir, with the coal scuttle. And the door is, you understand, sir, an old door. Of course. And what did you happen to hear, Mr. Carey, in passing? I heard the master say, Sir, very clear you will have what is fair, Theodore, and not a penny more. And Mr. Theodore said, Sir, I do not want a penny of it, father. I never did. And then I went on, sir, because the scuttle was heavy. Thank you, Mr. Carey. That is most helpful. Penrose, I have one further question for you, and I ask it as one man of business to another. Sir, you have been with this family for 31 years. You knew Sir Edmund's first wife. You knew his second. You have watched these children grow. Tell me, in your considered opinion, who in this house gained by Sir Edmund's death? In a strict sense, sir, the estate now passes to Miss Clara, under the will of 1884, as it would have done in any event. In a strict sense, yes, but I did not ask in a strict sense. In my considered opinion, sir, the person who gained most by my master's death is the person who would have lost most by his living another 24 hours. And who is that, Penrose? I do not know, sir, but I believe, sir, that you will. You have not eaten, Holmes. No. You have not slept. No, Watson. And I am not going to. Not until I have understood this room. He worked in this fashion for the better part of an hour. He examined the carpet, the hearthstones, the legs of the desk, the underside of the chair in which Sir Edmund had been found, the brass fender, the iron tongs, the poker, and the small leather slippers Sir Edmund had been wearing when he died. At one point he stood, crossed to the south window, drew back the heavy velvet curtain that had been pulled across the iron shutter, and examined the shutter itself by the light of the lamp. He took from his pocket a small steel probe and inserted it into the mechanism. He listened. He nodded. He let the curtain fall. Watson, come here. What do you see? A fireplace. Stone. Recent fire. Heavy soot stain on the back wall. Recent fire, yes. Heavy soot stain, yes. But look more carefully. What is the colour of the soot at the back of the hearth? Black, of course. And the colour of the soot here, on the inside of the chimney, 3 feet up. My God, Holmes, the chimney has not had fire in it in years. 12 years, in fact. Miss Hollis told us as much. The chimney was bricked off 12 years ago. The smoke from yesterday's fire had nowhere to go. It came back into the room, Watson. It left this house, through the gap under the door, through the keyhole, through the cracks in the iron shutter. It did not go up, because it could not go up. Then the room would have been thick with smoke. Sir Edmund would have known. He would have raised the alarm. He would have, Watson. Yes, unless he was already past raising any alarm at all. What is that? A fragment of silk, specifically of the lining of a lady's reticule. I would estimate from its quality and the dye that the reticule itself cost not less than £3, 10 shillings, which is a great deal of money for a small bag in which to carry handkerchiefs. Helena Hollis, or someone using her bag, Watson. Let us not run ahead of ourselves. Watson, I am going to ask you to do something for me. I am going to ask you to go to your bag. Fetch the small bottle of silver nitrate solution. I asked you to bring from London, and bring it here. Silver nitrate? What in heaven's name for? Because, my dear Watson, I have a theory about the warm milk Mrs. Penrose mentioned at dinner. and I would like to test it. This is the same jug, Mrs. Penrose, in which you sent up the master's warm milk on the evening of the 13th. It is, sir. We have not used it since. I had it set aside. Miss Clara asked me to. And the milk itself. Who handled it between the moment you poured it from the pan and the moment it reached the master's hand? I poured it, sir. I set it on a tray, with a small saucer of honey, as he liked it. I gave the tray to Annie Trent. Annie took it as far as the foot of the great stairs. There she met Mr. Theodore, sir, who said he was going up himself and would take the tray. I did not see it again until the morning, when it came down empty. Mr. Theodore took the tray. He did, sir. Mrs. Penrose. One further matter. The honey. From whose store? From the master's own jar, sir. He took only his own. A jar from the home farm. He was particular, and where is the jar kept? In the small cabinet in the master's library, sir. Behind the desk, in the library to which only your master held the key. Yes, sir, Mrs. Penrose. Have you, or any other person, entered that cabinet since your master's death? I have not, sir. The door has been locked. The cabinet, sir, I should think, has not been opened. Thank you, Mrs. Penrose. You have been most helpful. Watson, the honey jar. You think the honey was poisoned. I think it was meant to look as if the honey was poisoned, which is not the same thing. Come. The honey, Watson. Note the level. Half, as Mrs. Penrose said. Yes, and note the spoon. It is dry. It has not been used since the honey was last stirred, which is suggestive. Now, the bottles. The remaining 2, Watson. One is potassium bromide, in a stronger preparation than the first. The other, Watson, the other is digitalis. Digitalis. For the heart. For the heart. In sufficient quantity, digitalis can stop the heart of a healthy man in 20 minutes. In an elderly man, in 5.
And in a man who has been taking small doses of digitalis already, as a prescribed treatment, an additional dose may be undetectable in the post-mortem, because the metabolites will already be present in the tissues.
Then Sir Edmund was being treated for a heart condition. He was. His physician, Dr. Marshall, has been treating him for an irregular pulse for the last 4 years. I confirmed this by telegraph from Reading Station before we came, and digitalis from this very cabinet has been part of his regular treatment. Then anyone in this house, anyone who knew where the honey was kept, anyone who could enter the library while Sir Edmund was elsewhere, anyone, Watson, yes, including, you will note, his son, who emerged from a closed-door interview with him at 6 o'clock that evening, smiling, while his father was away from the room. And yet, Watson, I am not satisfied. I am not satisfied at all. Something in this room, Watson, is precisely the wrong way around. It was Holmes's habit, when a case began to overwhelm him with detail indoors, to go out of doors and walk. He had risen at 5. He had eaten nothing. He had drunk 1 cup of coffee, very black, and he had been walking the grounds of Winterbridge House for nearly 3 hours when Watson found him. You have been a long time, Holmes. I have been thinking. There is a difference, Watson, between a case which is difficult because the facts are obscure and a case which is difficult because the facts are too clear. This is the second kind. What do you mean? I mean that every fact in this case, every single fact, points to one of 3 people. The brother, who arrived in time, the stepmother, who had everything to lose, or the daughter, who has everything to gain. The facts are arranged in 3 neat columns, Watson, and the only difficulty is choosing which column to read. And which are you reading? None of them. I am looking instead at the spaces between the columns, at the facts that fit no one. Watson, look at this. A footprint. 2 footprints, small, a woman's foot, made within the last 48 hours since the last frost set, coming from the direction of the kitchen garden, going towards the house. And, importantly, stopping here. Stopping? The prints do not continue. They reach this point and they stop, as though the person who made them turned, looked back, and then walked away on the gravel of the path, where no prints can be seen. Lady Helena? Lady Helena, or any other woman of small foot. There are 4 women in this house, Watson. The lady of the house, the stepdaughter, the cook, the housemaid, and, indeed, there is at least 1 other woman in the village whom I have not yet ruled out. Come, there is something else I want you to see. In the summer, this is no doubt charming. In November, it is the sort of place where one comes when one wishes very much not to be seen. Watson, the chairs, they have been sat in, recently, by 2 people, sometime in the last 3 days. The dust on the table has been disturbed, you see, by a sleeve. There, and there, someone leaned across, perhaps to take the other person's hand. Yours, Watson, or mine? Neither, Holmes. No, and not Lady Hollis's, I think. Lady Hollis would not wear a glove with a split seam. Lady Hollis would not, in fact, allow such a glove to exist in her household. Then whose? Miss Clara Hollis, who, on her own account, has spent the last 3 days in mourning, indoors, and has not left the house. Then she is lying. She is concealing, which is not necessarily the same. The question, Watson, is whom she was meeting, and why. Come, it is time we spoke to the village doctor. There are some questions only a country physician can answer for me. Dr. Jonas Marshall was a man of 60, with white hair, a stooped back, and the kind, tired eyes of a country doctor who had delivered 3 generations of his patients and buried 2. Mr. Holmes, I will not pretend I have been easy in my mind these last days. I signed the certificate because the evidence on its face supported a natural death. Sir Edmund's heart was, as you know, weak. He was 69. The pattern of decease was consistent with a cardiac event. There were no marks of violence, no signs of struggle. The door was locked from the inside. What else was I to write? What else, indeed? But you were uneasy. I was uneasy, Mr. Holmes, because of the fire. The fire. Quite. Sir Edmund did not light fires. He did not. He could not. He had, for 12 years, a positive horror of them. After Lady Anne died, sir, after his wife, there was a fire on the night she died, a small one. A lamp had been overturned in her room. The lamp set the curtain alight. Lady Anne was in childbed. She could not move. The household carried her clear, but the smoke, sir. She had inhaled too much of it. She died at dawn, with the baby. Miss Clara is the child she was bearing. From that day, sir, Sir Edmund could not bear the sight of fire. He had every hearth in his private room sealed. He read, as you have observed, by lamp. He took no warmth from a fire in 12 years. He believed, sir, in his private heart that he had failed to save her. He believed the fire had been his fault. And was it? Mr. Holmes, I am his doctor. I am not his confessor. But I will say this. The lamp that fell that night. It fell from a small table beside his side of the bed. He had, that evening, taken brandy. He had not been sober when he came to her room. So he carried that guilt for 12 years. He did, sir. And it shaped everything. The disinheritance of Theodore. The settling of the estate upon Clara, who was the cause, as he saw it, of her mother's death, and to whom he therefore owed everything. The cold marriage with his second wife, whom I believe he never loved, but to whom he was bound by his sense that he could not be trusted to be alone. Everything, sir. Everything. Dr. Marshall. The new will. you knew of it. I did not know its contents, but Sir Edmund spoke to me, when I attended him last week, of a great change he intended to make. He spoke of what was the phrase he used, of setting his house in order. He said it was time. He said he had been wrong for a long time about a great many things. Did he tell you, in particular, who he had been wrong about? He said only this, Mr. Holmes. He said, "Marshal, I have given the wrong child the burden. I have given the wrong child the prize, and I have given the wrong woman the silence. I did not understand him then. I do not understand him now." But that is what he said. The wrong child the burden, the wrong child the prize, the wrong woman the silence. Dr. Marshall, you have given me, I think, the case. I am most deeply obliged. Holmes, what did he mean? He meant, Watson, that 12 years ago Sir Edmund Hollis decided who in his family was guilty of his wife's death. He decided wrong, and on the morning of his own death he had finally understood that he had decided wrong. The new will, Watson, was an act of restitution. The new will was about to give back what had been wrongly taken. And someone in that house, Watson, could not afford for the new will to be read. Then it is the stepmother. It is one of three, and I think, Watson, I begin to see which. Mr. Hollis, I have today learned a great deal about your family. Some of it from your sister, some of it from your stepmother, some of it from your father's physicians. I confess from between the things they all told me. I now believe I know what your father intended to do with his new will. I now believe I know, in outline, why he died. There remains a single question, and it is to you, Mr. Hollis, that I must put it. Ask, then, why did your father send you a telegram on the 7th of November, summoning you home from South Africa? Because, Mr. Holmes, he wished to apologize to me. Apologize? For what? For believing for 5 years that I was guilty of something I did not do. The matter at Cambridge. The cards, the brother officer's wife. I was disgraced for it. I was sent down. He disinherited me for it. He spoke of me to his friends as a man no longer fit to bear fiefdom. And you were innocent. I was. The man who actually committed the offence was a friend of mine. He confessed to me the night it happened in the rooms we shared. He begged me not to... He had exposed him. He had a wife. He had a child. I told the Dean of College nothing. The Dean assumed, from my silence, that the guilt was mine. I let him think so. I left. I never explained. And recently, my friend died, Mr. Holmes, of fever in Bombay 6 months ago. Before he died, he wrote a letter to his confessor, an army chaplain, requesting that it be sent to my father. He told the truth finally, after 11 years. He named himself. He cleared me. The chaplain forwarded the letter on the 1st of November. My father received it on the 3rd. My father telegraphed me on the 7th, begging me to come home. He wanted to make it right, Mr. Holmes. He told me, on the evening of the 13th, that he had instructed Hargreaves and Bellamy to draw up a new will, that the estate would be divided equally between Clara and myself, and he asked my forgiveness, and I gave it. And then I left him. He was tired. He said he had one more letter to write that evening. He said he would see me at breakfast. I went to my room. At 9, I came down as he had asked me to. The door was locked. I knocked. He did not answer. I assumed, as I told you, that he had fallen asleep. I went to bed. Mr. Hollis, forgive me, but did you, at any point that evening, enter your father's library? I did not. Did you enter the small cabinet in which his medicines were kept? I did not, Mr. Holmes. I came back to this country expecting to find an old man who had wronged me. I found, instead, an old man who knew he had wronged me and was trying to make it right. I am not a saint, Mr. Holmes, but I am not such a fool as to kill him on the very evening that I had recovered him. I believe you, Mr. Hollis. I should tell you that I have believed you, in substance, since this morning. I had wished to hear you say it. Then, who killed him? That, Mr. Hollis, is what I shall now go and confirm. One last thing. The new will. Do you know to whom your father gave it for safekeeping, after the solicitor left? To no one that I know of. He had it in his pocket all through dinner. I saw it. A folded paper, sealed. He kept patting his coat to feel it was there. And, after dinner, he took it with him to the library. He laid it, I think, on the desk. On the desk, where, that evening, it would have been within reach of any person who entered that room. Mr. Holmes, I had wondered when you would return to me. Lady Hollis, may I sit? Please do. Lady Hollis, the locket at your throat, may I ask, whose hair is in it? That is a strange question, Mr. Holmes. It is an essential one. Whose hair, Lady Hollis? My son's, Mr. Holmes. You had a son? I had a son. By my first marriage, he died at 5 years old of scarlet fever in 1876. His name was Edward. He was, in the very brief time I had him, the best thing in my life. And your husband, Sir Edmund, did he know? He knew I had borne a child who had died. He did not know, Mr. Holmes, that on the night before my child died, I prayed, in the worst hour of my life, that any other woman in the world might be made to feel what I was feeling. I prayed for it specifically. I named in my prayer the kind of woman I wished to suffer. I wished her to be a happy mother. I wished her to lose as I had lost. I prayed that prayer at 11 o'clock at night on the 12th of February, 1876. The next morning my child died. 5 years later, Mr. Holmes, I married Sir Edmund Hollis, and Sir Edmund's first wife, you will know, had died in childbirth 5 years before that. I did not, Mr. Holmes, kill her. I did not, in any rational sense, contribute to her death. But I have lived in this house for 12 years, with the knowledge that I prayed her death before I knew her name, and that the prayer was, in some way that I do not understand, answered. Lady Hollis. I am not asking you to absolve me, Mr. Holmes. I am asking only that you understand. When my husband told me, on the morning he died, that he intended to alter his will, I was, in my private heart, almost relieved. I had felt for a long time that I did not deserve what he had given me. I had thought, more than once, that if he disinherited me, I might at last be allowed to walk away from this house and live in some small cottage, as I am. You did not kill him. I did not, Mr. Holmes. I prayed for one woman, once, in the worst hour of my life. I have not prayed for another's death since, and I did not pray for his. Lady Hollis, one last thing, the yellow silk, from a lady's reticule. There was a fragment of it in the ashes in the library hearth. My reticule is black, Mr. Holmes. I have not owned a yellow one since I was a girl. You have not lent one to anyone in this house. I have not. Thank you, Lady Hollis. You have been most kind. Holmes. 2 of the 3 are cleared. 2 of the 3, Watson. Yes. There remains the 3rd. Clara. There remains, Watson, the 3rd. And the 3rd, my dear fellow, is the one I have been most afraid of. Holmes, what are we doing here? Waiting, Watson, as I instructed Mr. Hollis this evening, before we parted, to tell his sister that he had received a letter from London, from the solicitor, Mr. Hargreaves himself, informing him that a duplicate copy of the new will had been retained at the office and would be brought down by hand tomorrow morning. And was such a letter received? It was not. I sent the letter myself, this afternoon, by the village telegraph. Thus I addressed it to Mr. Theodore Hollis. I asked him, when it arrived, to make sure his sister learned of it before retiring tonight. And the purpose, Holmes? The purpose, Watsons. is that any person in this house who has destroyed the original will, in the belief that no other copy exists, will, on hearing of a duplicate, have one of two reactions. Innocence will be relieved. Guilt will be moved to action. To what action? To recovering or destroying whatever evidence may be left. To meeting, perhaps, an accomplice. To making, perhaps, an escape. There, Watson. Hold your breath. Hold it still.
Holmes? Who is that?
That, Watson, is Mr. Edward Hargreaves, junior partner of Hargreaves and Bellamy, solicitors, of Lincoln's Inn. The solicitor? The solicitor, or rather, the son of the senior partner, who, you will recall, drew up the new will yesterday morning, and who, I am now certain, is also the second person who has been sitting in this summer house for some time. He says there is a duplicate. Is there? There is none, I told you. I burned the office copy myself. There is no duplicate, Clara. There never was. Then why has he sent a letter saying there is? I do not know. It is a trick. It must be a trick. The detective is fishing. He has nothing. He has the ashes, and he has, I am told, fragments. The seal. A piece of cloth. Something. He has nothing that he can prove. Edward, listen to me. I cannot live with this. I cannot. I thought I could. I cannot. I want to go to him. I want to tell him. You will tell him nothing. We have done nothing wrong. We have done murder, Edward. We have done a kindness. He was going to die in any case. The doctor gave him a year, no more. I have simply spared him a slow death. And I have spared you a stepmother who would have spent the rest of his life draining what was rightly yours. He was going to give half to Theodore. I would have allowed it. I would have allowed it, Edward, in the end. You say that now. You did not say it last week. You did not say it when I came to you with a copy of the new will. You did not say it when we agreed. Because I did not know then that I would lose him. I did not know that the price was him. I would not have paid it, Edward. I would not. I am going to go to him. I am going to confess. I cannot live with it. You will not go to him. I shall. Clara, listen to me. You will not go to him, because if you go to him, I will have to ensure that you do not arrive. Watson, down. Hold him, Holmes. I have him covered. Mr. Hargreaves, I am Sherlock Holmes, the local constable whom I instructed at 6 o'clock this evening is at this moment closing the gate at the end of the drive. The vicar and the doctor are at the front door of the house. You are not, sir, going anywhere. Miss Hollis, Watson, see to her, please. The cold is hard on her. You are a fool, sir, a fool and a coward. The killing of an old man is a small kind of villainy. The killing of the woman you claim to love to keep her silent is a meaner one. You will hang for the one. You will not hang for the other, because Dr. Watson and I will see to it that you did not have the chance. Miss Hollis, Mr. Holmes. I know, Miss Hollis. I have known, in outline, since this morning. The yellow reticule was yours. The footprints in the kitchen garden were yours. The glove with the split seam was yours. The honey in the cabinet was, with reasonable certainty, prepared by you and by him. The fire in the hearth was lit after your father was already dying to burn the new will. You then went to your room by way of the kitchen garden. You returned in the morning. You found him. You called for Penrose. You played, very well, the part of the daughter discovering her father. I did. And the telegram, Miss Hollis. The telegram to me. I could not bear it, Mr. Holmes. I had been told all my life that I had killed my mother, that my birth was the cause of her death. I had been given, by my father, a great house and a great fortune as he saw it, in payment for that guilt. And yesterday morning I learned that the bargain was about to be undone, that my father had forgiven Theodore, that he had understood at last that I was not at fault, that he was going to give half of everything to my brother and I. And you? And I was so angry, Mr. Holmes. I was so angry that he had forgiven Theodore before he had forgiven me, that he had set me up all my life as the heiress to his guilt, and then, when his guilt was lifted, he had cast me down. I told myself, I told Edward, that if my father died before he could sign the new will into the lawyer's books, the old will would stand, and I would keep what was mine. And
it was, all of it, lies you told yourself to permit the killing of a man who loved you, because Edward had told you that it would all be very simple.
And because, Miss Hollis, you wanted to believe him. Yes, Holmes had taken no breakfast. He had been awake all night. He sat now in Sir Edmund's own chair, behind the great desk, with Watson opposite him in the chair Sir Edmund had reserved for visitors. Mr. Hollis, I owe you, before we leave this house, the complete account. I had wished to give it last night, but you were not, I think, in a state to hear it. Tell me now, Mr. Holmes. Your father, on receiving the chaplain's letter on the 3rd of November, understood for the first time in 11 years that he had wronged you. He summoned you at once. He also, on the morning of the 13th, called Hargreaves and Bellamy to draw up a new will. The senior partner being absent that day, the junior partner attended in his place. The new will divided the estate equally between yourself and your sister. It also, in a single small clause, settled an annual income upon your stepmother for her lifetime, regardless of her remarriage. The estate as a whole, in the event of the death of one heir without issue, would pass to the other. It was, in short, a fair will. The first fair will, I think, that your father had ever made. Go on. Mr. Edward Hargreaves, the young solicitor, was at this time engaged in a clandestine attachment with your sister. They had known each other for some 6 months. They had met, originally, at a charity concert in Reading. The attachment was, on his side, ambitious, on hers, lonely. He had not declared himself openly, because, as he told her, he had not the means to support her in the manner she deserved. Penniless lawyer marries heiress. Just so. Now.
On the morning of the 13th, having drafted the new will, Mr. Hargreaves understood that the heiress he was courting was about to lose half her fortune to a brother she had not seen in 5 years, and a portion of the remainder to a stepmother she had not chosen. He left Winterbridge, ostensibly to return to London. He did not return to London. He stopped in the village, sent your sister a note, and met her that afternoon in the summer house. He told her. He laid the case before her. He pointed out that if your father died that very night, before the new will was witnessed by any second party, the old will would stand. He told her, further, that he could, in his capacity as the only solicitor in possession of a copy, ensure that the new will simply ceased to exist. He pointed out, finally, that with the proper application of a single dose of digitalis to your father's accustomed cup of warm milk, the death would resemble in every particular a natural cardiac event. And she agreed. She agreed, not, I believe, easily, but she agreed. They divided the work. He provided her with a sealed envelope containing a sufficient dose of digitalis in solution from the dispensary at his lodgings in London. She would administer it. He would, at the appropriate moment, slip into the house, retrieve the new will from the desk, and burn it in the hearth. She would then secure the room from outside, return the key by means of the thread and keyhole trick, and produce her father in the morning in a locked room, dead of the natural causes for which his physician had been treating him these 4 years. But, Mr. Hollis, they overlooked 2 things. The first was your father's horror of fire. Your sister knew of it, of course.
But Mr. Hargreaves had advised her that the burning of the will was essential, and she trusted him. She did not consider at the moment of lighting it that the smoke would have nowhere to go. The chimney was bricked. The room filled. Your father, already dying of the digitalis in his milk, did not call out, did not rise, did not raise the alarm, because he could not. He was beyond it. The smoke filled the room. It crept under the door. It was that smoke, faint by morning, that the housemaid noticed when she came at first light. The local doctor, finding the body and the cold ashes, attributed the fire to your father himself and did not pursue it. And the second thing they overlooked, your sister, Mr. Hollis. They overlooked your sister. Miss Clara Hollis is not a wicked woman. She is a damaged one. She has been told all her life that she killed her mother. She has been given a great fortune as a kind of restitution. When the restitution was revoked, when her father announced his intention to share that fortune with the brother she had been taught to dismiss, she experienced, very briefly, a rage that overwhelmed her judgment. In that rage, she agreed to a plan. She executed her part of it, and then, within hours of her father's death, she began to come apart. The telegram. Yes, she could not, Miss Hollis, leave the matter as it was. She could not accept that her father had died, and that the killing of him had been her doing. She needed, in some deep part of herself, to be discovered. So she wrote to me. She gave me, in her telegram, the single most damning piece of evidence in the entire case. She told me that her father had never lit a fire in that hearth. She therefore drew my attention with her own hand to the very fact that would unravel the deception. She summoned me, Mr. Hollis, knowing that I would in time see what she had done. She wanted to be caught. Good God. Yes, it is not, I think, an uncommon pattern. The conscience that proved too weak to prevent the crime is often strong enough to demand the punishment after the fact. Your sister could not stop herself in the moment, but she could not afterwards live with herself. So she summoned the one man in England most likely to expose her, and then she watched in a kind of paralysis as the exposure unfolded. And the seal, Mr. Holmes, in the ashes. Yes. Mr. Hargreaves, on the evening of the 13th, slipped into the house by way of the garden door which your sister had left unlocked. He went to the library after your father had collapsed. He took the new will from the desk. He burned it in the hearth which your sister had already lit. He broke off the seal as he did so, and a fragment of the seal, embedded in the half-burnt corner of the document, survived. He did not notice. He was, you understand, in a hurry. Equally, he caught the lining of his coat on the corner of the fender as he turned, and a fragment of yellow silk, the lining of his greatcoat, fell into the grate. It also survived. 2 small failures of attention, Mr. Hollis. Together, they hanged him. There was also, of course, the matter of the honey. The honey? Your father, you will recall, took honey in his milk. Mrs. Penrose told us he was particular about his honey now. When I examined the cabinet on the day of our arrival, I found the honey jar half full. The wooden spoon laid across it was dry. Bone dry, Mr. Hollis. If your father had taken honey on the evening of the 13th, the spoon would have been used. It would have been sticky. Then he did not take honey that night. He did not, because the cup of milk that came up to his library that evening was not the cup of milk Mrs. Penrose prepared. The cup Mrs. Penrose prepared was, indeed, mixed with honey downstairs before it left her hands. The cup that reached your father was a different cup. A cup, in fact, that your sister substituted in the corridor outside the library between the moment you carried the tray up the stairs and the moment your father received it. The original cup, with its honey, she poured down the kitchen sink. The new cup, which she had prepared in her own room, contained no honey. It contained, instead, the dose of digitalis your young solicitor had provided. She substituted them, Mr. Hollis, in less than 30 seconds, while your back was turned to set the tray down on the side table outside the library door. I did set the tray down. You did. Carey, the footman, mentioned it in passing. You set the tray on the side table while you removed your gloves, which were damp from outside. Your sister was there. She offered to take in the tray to your father. You let her. You went to your own room to change. In those seconds, the substitution was made. By the time your father drank it, you were dressing for dinner. Then I carried the poison to him. You carried, Mr. Hollis, a cup of warm milk. Your sister carried the poison. Do not, I beg you, multiply the guilt in this house. There is already, I think, enough of it. Lady Hollis, I have brought you here because I owe you also an explanation, and, I think, an apology. You owe me neither, Mr. Holmes. I do. I suspected you very seriously on the second day of my investigation. The yellow silk in the ashes pointed to my mind to a woman of means. The reticule of £3, 10 shillings. You were, in every meaningful sense, the obvious suspect. You've had everything to lose by the new will. You had quarrelled with your husband in private. You had, by your own account, prayed for the death of a stranger 13 years ago and seen that prayer answered. I considered you, in short, the most likely person in the house to have hated your husband enough to act against him. And you found? I found that you have spent the last 12 years of your life believing yourself the cause of a death you did not in fact cause. I found that you would have welcomed the new will. I found that you have nothing on your conscience, Lady Hollis, that is properly yours. The death of your son was an act of fever. The death of Lady Anne Hollis was an act of fire. You did not cause either of them. You have only thought, in the worst hours of the night, that you did. I am telling you this, Lady Hollis, because I think it possible that no one has ever told it to you, and because I think you should hear it spoken in a room with witnesses before I leave this house. And the yellow silk was the lining of Mr. Edward Hargreaves' London greatcoat, bought, I have reason to believe, at Henry Poole and Co. of Savile Row on the proceeds of a small inheritance from his aunt. He had aspirations, Lady Hollis. He wished to look the part of a man of fortune. He purchased a coat above his station, and it has destroyed him. Holmes, there is one thing you have not yet explained. Watson? The single detail, the one you said, on the first day, that you would keep to yourself, the one that, when the time came, would turn this entire matter inside out. Quite right, Watson. I had not forgotten. On the morning of our arrival, I examined this bottle. I noted then that it had not been opened. The wax seal around the stopper was intact. The label was undisturbed. The bottle from which the digitalis was supplied to Sir Edmund on the night of his death was not, you see, this one. It was a separate, identical bottle, brought into the house in the pocket of Mr. Edward Hargreaves, and removed by him after the deed was done, which meant, when I first observed it, that the killer of Sir Edmund did not come from inside this house. The killer came from outside it. Then you knew, on the first day, that it was not the family. I knew, Watson, that the agent was not a member of the family, but I also knew, from the substitution of the milk and the lighting of the fire, that there was an accomplice within the family, which meant, very plainly, that two people had done this thing, one from inside, one from outside. The inside accomplice was, of necessity, a woman, because of the footprints, the glove, and the silk fragment, which I at first ascribed wrongly to Lady Hollis. And the outside accomplice was, of necessity, the solicitor, because no other outsider could have known of the new will or had access to the digitalis to which a young man in London, articled to a firm whose senior partner kept a dispensary as a hobby, would have ready access. My God, Holmes. Then, by the second day, you knew. By the second day, Watson, I knew. By the third, I had only to draw them out. The letter announcing a duplicate will did the rest. Mr. Holmes, I do not know how to thank you. You have done a thing today in this room that I had ceased to believe could be done. You owe me nothing, Lady Hollis. Watson, I think, will accept a cup of tea. I have not, in 3 days, drunk anything but coffee. For a long time neither man spoke. Watson, with his hands deep in his coat pockets, watched the empty track. Holmes beside him looked back along the road they had travelled by carriage that morning towards the distant grey mass of Winterbridge House. Holmes. Yes, Miss Hollis. What will become of her? She will stand her trial, Watson. There will be no avoiding it. She will plead. I am told by her brother, fully and without defence. Her counsel will speak of the long unsettling of her mind, of the weight she had carried since her infancy, of the influence of Mr. Hargreaves. She will not, I think, hang. She will go to a place where she will be kept, and where she will, in time, with some quiet care, perhaps recover something of herself. And Hargreaves? He will hang. Holmes, I have to ask you something. Were you certain, when you arranged the meeting in the summer house, that he would draw the revolver? I was not certain, Watson. I considered it the most probable outcome. I had Watson, you understand, behind a wall, with a service revolver of his own, and a constable at the end of the drive. The risk to Miss Hollis was, I judged, slight. I had to know, however, what Mr. Hargreaves was capable of. Now I know. You took a risk with her life. I took a risk with her life, Watson. Yes, it is a thing I do not often do. In this case, I judged her life was already in some measure forfeit, and that the alternative, which was a hidden marriage and the slow draining of her conscience over decades, was the worse outcome. She is, I think, in greater safety today than she was a week ago, though it will take us some time to understand it. Watson, do you know the thing in this case that will stay with me longest? Tell me. The single sentence in her telegram, "There was no fire last night." It told me, on the first reading, that her father did not light fires. It told me, on the third reading, that she had lit one in the room with his dying body, and had then, in the silence of her own kitchen at 3 in the morning, sat down and written me a sentence that gave away everything. She wanted to be stopped, Watson. She had not the strength to stop herself, and so she wrote me a sentence, and she sent it to Baker Street. That is a terrible thing, Holmes. It is a human thing, Watson. They are sometimes the same. It is the way of Sherlock Holmes, on returning from a case, to say very little about it. He smokes. He plays the violin very softly, late into the evening. He answers with monosyllables the questions of Mrs. Hudson, who brings up his supper at her own pace, and asks no further question once she sees his face. It was many days in the case of Winterbridge before he spoke of it again. When he did, it was on a December evening as we sat in the firelight after dinner, and Watson asked him, idly, what he believed had been the true cause of the case. The cause, Watson? The cause. The thing that, if it had been different, would have prevented all of it. You will think me sentimental, Watson, if I tell you. I have thought you many things over the years, Holmes. I have never thought you sentimental. Then I will tell you. The cause, Watson, was a single conversation that did not occur. 12 years ago, when Sir Edmund Hollis lost his wife in a fire he believed himself to have caused, he chose, in his grief, to assign the guilt to his infant daughter. He told her, by his every action for 2 decades, that she was the cause of her mother's death. He gave her, by way of payment for that guilt, a fortune she had not asked for and did not want. He raised her, in short, to be a woman who could not love him, because she could not believe that he loved her. If he had, at any time in those 12 years, spoken to her honestly, if he had told her that the fire was his and not hers, if he had told her that she was loved not as a debt repaid, but as a child, then, Watson, she would not have stood, last week, in the corridor outside his library, with a cup of warm milk in her hand and a phial of digitalis in her sleeve.
The case began, Watson,
12 years before I was summoned. It began in a silence, and every act that followed was the consequence of that silence. It is a curious thing, Watson, in our profession. We are often asked to solve the murder. We are very rarely asked to solve the silence. And yet the silence, in 9 cases out of 10, is the thing that made the murder possible. Holmes, will you give me leave to write this case up? In time, Watson. Yes. But not yet. Not until the trial is concluded. And not, I think, with the family's name. Some things, my dear fellow, are owed to the living. If you have enjoyed this story, the next case waits in the fog. The disappearance at Carfax Abbey. Click the panel on screen now.